The Switch was a landslide success for Nintendo. I mean, the Switch was really cool hardware in itself. Being able to take home console games on the go with you was really cool. And the cool hardware got a lot of people interested, of course, in the system itself. But undoubtedly, the thing that made the Switch be such a huge success was its phenomenal software lineup. But now that we have the official confirmation from Nintendo that the next generation hardware is on the horizon, it kind of begs the question, what games are going to be on the system? In this week's video, I want to talk about 15 games that I personally want to see on the next console that weren't on the Switch. Of course, there's some games that are kind of, a shoo-in. You know they're going to be on the next console. I don't have to predict that we're going to get a new Mario, a new Zelda, a new Fire Emblem, you know what I mean? We know that it'll be on the new console, but here are 15 of the games I personally really want to see. The first game on my list is Rythm Heaven. Now, I've personally never played a Rythm Heaven game before. I always kind of knew what it was, but I didn't think it would be a game that would necessarily interest me. But then I feel like I kind of accidentally stumbled upon the Rythm Heaven community on TikTok, and ever since then I just really want to play Rythm Heaven. However, I can't necessarily play Rythm Heaven because there's no game on Switch, and all the other games are very expensive on eBay and I'm not paying these prices. So personally, I think it'd be really cool if they brought this old series back on the Switch's successor. Next up is Star Fox. Now, the last Star Fox game we got was Star Fox Zero for the Wii U. But the game wasn't without its problems, especially with its controls. It's just one of those types of games that, even though the Wii U was all about the gamepad, it was a little forced with this one. It'd also be really cool if they stayed away from Star Fox 64, because Star Fox Zero is kind of assumed to be a reimagining of Star Fox 64. Then the game we got before that was Star Fox 64 3DS. Which was, once again, just a remake of the game, so it'd be kind of cool if they'd steered away from that and just had a original story. The next game I have on my list is Kid Icarus. I'd really hope we get a new game in that series. Obviously, it's not the most popular series out there, with only 3 games total. There was the original game for the NES that came out in 1986, and then we got a Game Boy game in 1991, and then we had to wait until 2012 for Kid Icarus Uprising to come out. Obviously, it would be cool if all those rumors that were floating around before of Kid Icarus Uprising having a Switch port would happen, but honestly, I think it would be really cool if we could just have a new game in the series. And of course, this isn't to say that Kid Icarus Uprising doesn't deserve to be remade, because especially with the controls, I personally never played the game, but I heard excellent things. I have the game, I just never got the time to play it. But yeah, even though I heard the controls in Kid Icarus Uprising on the 3DS was stinky at best, I still think a new game would be really cool. Next on my wish list is a new Xeno game. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean a new Xenoblade. Before Xenoblade, there was Xenogears and Xenosaga. So what I'm specifically asking for is either you remake those, or that you make a brand new Xeno series. Because if the Switch did one thing to me, it was turn me into a Xenoblade fan. I played 1, 2, 3, all of them. I really liked them all. Some more than others, of course. But yeah, the Switch just overall made me fall in love with the Xeno series. I don't know much about the Xenogears or Xenosaga. I don't necessarily Google much about it because I know one day I'd like to get to it. And I know those are the type of games you like to go just completely blind in, so I just really don't want spoilers. The next game I would really like to see is a new game in the F-Zero franchise. I've always been a really big fan of the F-Zero games. I played the ever-living shit out of the one for the SNES, and I also bought the one for the GameCube. I paid a pretty penny for it, of course, but still, such a good game. I love it so much. Honestly, even if they were just to port F-Zero GX to the new console, that'd be good enough for me. But especially seeing that they made F-Zero 99, clearly they haven't completely forgot about it. I know the producer of the game, or the director of the game, I don't remember who there, but I know they mentioned that F-Zero GX was kind of its final form for the series, and they would only ever make a new game if they knew there was something else they would like to introduce to the series. But still, I won't lose hope, and hopefully, and I know it's probably a long shot, but hopefully we'll see a new F-Zero game. Another series we haven't seen in quite some time, and it would be cool if they could bring it back, is Punch-Out! Most of my life I kind of knew about Punch-Out because my dad talked to me about it way back when, and it was a game he loved to play a lot when he was younger. So because of that, I never necessarily played the game, but it was always a franchise I found really cool and kind of watched it from a distance. But when Punch-Out arrived on the NSO service, I did play it quite some bit, and I actually did quite like the game. So because of that, I'm really hoping they would bring it back, and honestly, I feel like it's not that much of a long shot. I mean, worst comes to worst, I know there's the one for the Wii that you could just port over, but still, I don't know. I kind of really hope they bring back Punch-Out, and hopefully we get to see it on the next console. The next game on my list that I hope we get to see is Astral Chain 2. Of course, there was Astral Chain 1 on the Switch, a game that I actually really did enjoy. The story is not the greatest, but I found the gameplay to be really fun. I really enjoyed, controlling the legions, and I always thought it would be cool to play with somebody else, but nobody ever freaking wanted to play with me. Yeah, I don't know, I still found controlling the legions, or, the player 2 being able to become the legion, always thought that was really neat, and I'd really like them to keep building upon this principle. So hopefully we get to see Astral Chain 2. Now, the next 4 games I have are kind of a long shot, but still something I hope happens either way. The first thing is a new Tamodatchi Life. I personally never played the original, I just wasn't into it, but I had a friend that was like really deep into it. But now that I'm more grown up, I kind of wish I could have played it. I mean, I can still go out and buy it, don't get me wrong, but still, it'd be cool to have a brand new version. But I don't see this happening for 2 reasons. The first one is because I feel like Nintendo's are kind of shooing out the Miis, and I mean, Tamodatchi Life was centered around the Miis. So right there, that doesn't give me confidence that they are looking to either remake the original, making a new one, anything like that. But also, when the first game released, there was some controversy around the game. The controversy stemmed around the exclusion of same-sex marriage in the game. Since then, Nintendo of course did an apology statement saying that we apologize for disappointing many people by failing to include same-sex relationships in Tamodatchi Life. Unfortunately, it's not possible for us to change this game's design, and such a significant development change can't be accomplished with a post-ship patch. At Nintendo, dedication has always meant going beyond the game to promote a sense of community and to share a spirit of fun and joy. We are committed to advance our longtime company value of fun and entertainment for everyone. We pledge that if we create a next installment in the Tamodatchi series, we will strive to design a gameplay experience from the ground up that is more inclusive and better represents all players. But yeah, even though Nintendo did say that, I think they'll really be emphasizing on the if we create a next installment, because yeah, homosexuality is banned in Japan, and Nintendo being a Japanese company, it kind of makes them be in a weird position where it's like, okay, we want to create a game, but we're kind of going against the laws of our own country. Of course, you could kind of limit some content for certain regional releases. But I feel like that kind of just introduces a big headache of like, okay, what country are we going to allow certain features in a lifestyle game, you know what I mean? It becomes weird. I mean, realistically, I personally believe that if it's going to be a lifestyle game, it should be at least an option. I know as well that recently 2 higher courts in Japan kind of deemed the ban unconstitutional, so there might be some bigger substantial changes to the law in the next years to come, but until that happens, I don't know, I don't really expect to see another Tamodatchi Life, even though it would be really fun. Anyways, I'll just stop myself there because I'm a sociology nut and I think this topic is very fascinating, but either way, moving on. The next game I'd like to see is technically not really a game. I've noticed that there's a lot of Nintendo consoles that kind of have like a little gimmicky thing, I suppose. Or a gimmicky peripheral, I should say. And these peripherals are usually kind of more toy-like, because Nintendo at one point was a toy company too. On the Switch, we had Mario Kart Live, where we could buy, the actual Mario Kart carts that could drive around your living room. There was also the Nintendo Labo that was cardboard that you get to fold up and use as fire starter now, because it just kind of takes too much room. The Wii had a lot of plastic accessories that you could slide your Wiimote into. The GameCube had those bongo things that kind of had like a surprising amount of games you could play it with. The NES and the SNES had gun attachments and all sort of attachments as well. Like, all these attachments are just something Nintendo does very consistently. And personally, I think it'd be really cool if they would bring back Rob from the NES. A lot of people now know who Rob is because of Smash Bros, and I think just, having a reboot of him would be really neat. I know it was really gimmicky even at the time, but I'm sure Nintendo could find a way to make it kind of be more appealing for people and really want it, just even as a collector item, you know what I mean? The next of the unconventional picks is Dragalia Lost. Dragalia Lost was a smartphone game that is now discontinued, and I think it would be really cool if they can kind of just take the, not necessarily the assets, but maybe just the concept of the game, rework it, retweak the models, things like that, story elements. I think it'd be really cool if they could use all of that and create a full-fledged game. Trust me, I know that it is a long shot, but I really think it would be a really fun idea to do, and who knows? Maybe we'll see it. Probably not, but maybe. And the final first-party game that unfortunately I don't think I see it happening, but it'd be really cool if they did, is Nintendo Land 2. Of course, Nintendo Land worked so neat on the Wii U because of the gamepad, but you can still take that concept and use it for the successor to the Switch. Not every game required the gamepad. There were some games that you could play without the gamepad. Actually, let me, correct myself. The gamepad had to be used, somebody had to be using it. However, there were some people that were playing these games that didn't need to use the gamepad. Not everybody needed a gamepad. Think of the Link's Adventure, the person with the Wiimote can use the sword. In the Metroid game, the gamepad was the gunship, but everybody else got to be just Samus running around. But for whatever the new features are for the new Nintendo console, you can still kind of create a successor to Nintendo Land using the features of the new console. I of course don't necessarily see them doing it, but again, this is a wish list. I don't have to be realistic. Well, at least not for all of them. But before we move on to the third-party games, I just want to make a really quick announcement. If this is your first time here, hey, my name's Adrian, and I post weekly Nintendo videos. And if you've been enjoying the video so far, I would really appreciate it if you would consider liking and subscribing, and without further ado, let's just go right back into the video. But moving on, let's go to 4 third-party games I'd really like to see. First off is Persona 3 Reload. Honestly, I think this one's almost like a shoo-in at this point. Atlus already started to bring some of the games over to the Switch anyways. You can get Persona 3 Portable, and you can get Persona 4 Golden on the eShop, and you can get Persona 5 Royale physically and on the eShop. All the spin-off games, so Persona Strikers and Persona 5 Tactica, are of course on the Switch. So I think that with the Switch successor having more power, I really see Persona 3 happening. But speaking of Persona, the next game on my list is Persona 6. Now, it'd be interesting to see how they're going to handle Persona 6, but personally with the way Atlus has been acting, I do expect Persona 6 to end up on the next console. I think that's going to be great because Persona games are very long games, so being able to kind of just take it with me on the road will be fantastic, but yeah, I guess time will tell. This next game is my own guilty pleasure. I've, again, never played this game, but for whatever reason, it was my absolute hyperfixation for like a good part of last year. And that game is Space Channel 5. I can't explain it, but absolutely everything about this game I absolutely just adore. It's just the right kind of stupid. Oh, love it to bits. And it is with utmost dread that I say that I realistically don't see this happening. However, Sega has been saying that they're going to be remaking a lot of their older games, so even if it's not in the first batch, who knows, maybe Space Channel 5 will get its turn. I can only hope. And the final game on my list should be shocking to a grand total of no one. That game is none other than Elden Ring. Man, everybody and their dog has played Elden Ring, except me, but still. I do have a PS5, I could totally play it, I probably will someday, but I just don't feel like it's a game for me. I think the only thing that could stop this from happening is the power, but if it does end up on the successor to the Switch, I probably will end up buying it. But yeah, with all that being said, now it's up to you. What game would you like to see on the next console? Let me know down in the comments. I of course would really appreciate it if you would consider liking and subscribing, and until next time, what else?